Good evening, everyone. I'm Peter Pritchard, CEO of the Newseum, and welcome to the Newseum's Walter and Leonore Annenberg Theater. It's a great pleasure to see you all out here tonight. We have a great treat in store when Larry King starts recounting his life in broadcasting, which has been a long and illustrious career. I'd like to welcome our Press Pass members, our Friends of the First Amendment Society, and our Corporate Engagement Program members, and all of our donors to this very special Members Night. We do many, many programs at the Newseum, and we certainly couldn't do them without your support. The Newseum is the only institution in the world that works every day to educate people about the value of a free press and of our other fundamental freedoms. If you can't name them, press, religion, speech, assembly, and the freedom to petition the government for a redress of grievances. We also work to remind people that freedom of expression is a fundamental human right, a right that certainly needs support in our troubled times. This is important work, and our members and supporters help make it happen. So if you're not yet a member of the Newseum, I urge you to become one. It's a great way to support a cause you believe in and get access to new exhibits and special programs all through the year. Our headliner tonight is a broadcast legend. Larry was born in Brooklyn in 1933, the son of first-generation Jewish immigrants, as Larry Zeiger. His father owned a saloon, and his mother was a garment worker in Brooklyn. From an early age, Larry dreamed of a career in radio, and he set off to Florida to make his fortune. His first job was as a cleaner and a gopher at WAHR in Miami Beach. But when an announcer quit in 1957, he got his first break. The general manager liked his voice and his delivery, but he told Larry he needed a name that people would remember. Larry had seen an ad in the Miami Herald for King's Wholesale Liquor Store, and on the spot, he became Larry King. In 1978, he started a coast-to-coast late-night show on the Mutual Radio Network, and eventually the Larry King Show from midnight to 5 a.m. was on 500 radio stations. That caught the attention of Ted Turner, who put him on CNN in 1985, and Larry King Live became the first international television call-in show and lasted for 25 years. He interviewed presidents, world leaders, politicians, entertainers, athletes, and many other celebrities. He also reported live breaking news events, most famously the O.J. Simpson car chase in 1994. In the 1990s, he wrote a widely read column in USA Today, which I occasionally edited, and he was a great friend of Al Newharth, the founder of USA Today and the founder of the Newseum. Larry is now in front of an eager digital audience on his own digital entertainment network, Aura TV. His new shows include the Emmy-nominated Larry King Now on Aura TV and on Hulu, and Politicking on Aura TV and RT. He also does a sports show in his spare time on baseball. Our moderator tonight is an excellent journalist, well known to Washington audiences, a former colleague of Larry's at CNN, Leon Harris. Leon joined Channel 7 in 2003 after 20 years at CNN's Atlanta bureau. Before we bring out Leon and Larry, we have a brief video featuring the highlights of Larry's career.
My mother would tell me at times that when I was 5, 6 years old, I would listen to the radio, be hypnotized by it. I wanted to be on the radio. I would, for example, go to a baseball game, go to the old Ebbets Field, and I would sit way up in the back, leave my friends for a while and go up like to the 100th row and broadcast the game to myself.
My father died when I was very young, so I had to help my mother, so I went to work at a bunch of odd jobs. I worked for United Parcel Service, I worked for Hearns Department Store, just a bunch of odd jobs. And I was walking down the street with a guy and said, "Oh, look, that's James Sermons." He was chief of announcers at CBS. And so I came up, introduced myself, and I said, "Mr. Sermons, if you wanted to break into radio, what would you do? He said, I'd go to Miami. And so I went down to Miami, had $11 in my pocket, knocked on a bunch of doors, and finally a small station, WAHR, Miami Beach, right opposite the police station. So I literally lived at that station.
From the nation's capital, Mutual Radio presents The Larry King Show.
Thank you, Fred Lowry, and good evening, everybody. On this Friday night, Saturday morning across America, this is The Larry King Show.
Springfield, Illinois, hello.
Las Vegas, Nevada, hello.
It's from Bethesda, Maryland, hello. Ted Turner called me, so Larry, you want to come work with me? Give me an answer tomorrow. Good evening. I knew 5 minutes in, this was going to work. How's the party here? Whoa! What a way to make a living, huh?
That's pretty good, huh?
I'm immensely curious. I've been curious all my life, and the curiosity works for me.
Are there days you question your faith?
Do you ever feel that it's all coming in around you? A good question is a question to which I don't know the answer.
What is it like to be shot? I didn't know I was shot.
Is it hard to drive by the Watergate?
Well, I've never been in the Watergate.
How did you emotionally hold up?
Well, here.
I know, but how? Details are still coming in about the sudden death of Michael Jackson.
Why don't you do more interviews?
Nobody invites me.
You realize when you're the host of a show, it's your show. So maybe the White House, or maybe Mount Kilimanjaro, or your studio. It's your show.
Carlos Slim said to me, "You can't really retire. Why can't we do something together?" My wife came up with the idea of, why not Larry King now?
Larry King now.
That's the intro.
This reminds me how good you are.
Okay, I'm going to tell you this, but it's just got to be between you and me, okay? All right.
You are the king of kings. Sing as king.
I could play the president,
You could.
but I won't.
That's right.
You have a favorite among the 600 Republican potential nominees?
The only difference between the people in Congress and the people on my shows, people in Congress have more teeth.
Well, I've been here and I lost a lot of money. Then I went to the psych ward for a few.
Why did you
I
buy
said sorry.
Well, George Bush was very pro-immigration.
He spoke the language about as good as he spoke English.
80%.
Yeah, 80%.
Role model.
You?
I love you, Larry. And you say?
I love you, Bill.
Okay.
Did you ever say I was mistaken?
Well, I don't like to say that. I do like to learn.
So I think somebody like Elizabeth Warren, I'd love to see her run with Hillary. How about that? A granny ticket.
You could read the freaking phone book and they're like, Larry, keep going.
Please welcome Leon Harris and Larry King.
Of course.
That'll prove it's me.
That took all of what, 4 seconds before you flashed us? I should have known that was coming.
Oh, Leon.
Well, since you brought them out, let me ask you about the suspenders right off the bat. Where the hell did that come from?
A black and a Jew. How about this, huh? Anyway.
Only in America.
Only in America. Why did you want to eat at Woolworth? Anyway, never mind. It always bugged me. Anyway, no, the suspenders. I had a heart attack in 1987 and then subsequently heart surgery.
Yeah.
And I was really overweight and didn't take care of myself, but I got a little trimmer, it looked a little better. And I was having dinner with Sharon, an ex-wife, one of my ex-wives. Yeah. And she said, "You ever thought of wearing suspenders, braces?" I said, I never thought of that. And she says, "Why don't you try it? It might look nice." So I tried it one night, and a couple of people called in and said it looked good, and that's all I had to hear.
Uh-huh.
And I've been wearing them ever since.
But you didn't try to step out and get your own brand? You know, that's the thinking. That's the way guys think now. You know, if you've been an NBA player, somebody would say, you know what, you need to get Nike in on this. You need to get Under Armour.
The trouble was CNN wouldn't let me do any of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you couldn't do any commercial endorsements at all. So, in fact, I had a great offer from Donna Karan. She was going to do braces and ties and call it LK by DK. But
That actually would have worked.
CNN said no.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned 87 when you had that heart attack. You scared the hell out of us when you did that. Because you represented that network. I mean, Bernie Shaw may have been the lead anchor, but you represented that network.
Thank you. That heart attack, there's a funny story. This is Fox. I know. It's foxhole humor, but it's true. It's foxhole humor because, it's funny after the fact. I was interviewing C. Everett Koop, the Surgeon General of the United States, on CNN. And at the end of the show, he said to me, "Are you still smoking?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You don't look good." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, I don't like the way you look. You got something to do?" I said, "Well, I got to go do my radio show." He says, "You ought to see a doctor tomorrow." I said, "Tomorrow? You don't look good." Okay, I get in the car, I drive, and David Halberstam, the late David Halberstam, wonderful writer, was my guest on the radio. I finished the show with him, and he says to me, "You don't look good." So something's starting to hit me that I don't look good. Then I come to the building where I live, the Prospect House, right here across by the Iwo Jima Memorial, and the night attendant at the building says to me as I walk in, "You don't look good." So and then I got pain down my right arm. I called my doctor at 5 in the morning, and he said it could be gallbladder because gallbladder has refracted pain. Why don't you go over to George Washington Hospital, and I'll meet you there and have them look at you. So Tammy Haddad was my producer. She drove me over to George Washington Hospital, the emergency room, and I felt better.
Yeah. That's unusual because Tammy's known for giving people heart attacks. Yeah.
You're not kidding.
Yeah.
Tammy, they used to call her my tank. Anyway, I smoked all the way over to the hospital.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I did. And then I felt no pain. So I said to her, "Listen, wait here, I'll be right back, I'm okay." I walk in, it was packed, the emergency room, and it was snow on the ground, and I was turning to go back, but the guy out front said she couldn't park there. She had to park, so I had to go back in. And then the guy came up to me and said, "You don't look good." And the emergency room was getting redundant, and I said, I feel fine. He says, "Let's take you in right away." And this doctor came. He said, "I know you're not having the pain now, but let's wait. The way you look, I think it's going to come back." And it came back. Down my right arm was terrible. And then they took some blood, and they went over and they had charts up on a wall. The doctor and nurse, they're looking at the charts. They turn around, start coming toward me, and blue lights go on, flashing blue lights. And I said to someone standing there, "I don't think this is a pulled muscle." And
so finally you take a hint.
The guy came up to me, the doctor came up, and he said, "Mr. King, you're having a heart attack." And I said, "Am I going to die?" And he said, "Good question." That's why they pay you the big bucks. So I said, "Am I going to die?" And he said, "We don't know. It's a right side heart attack, so that's a good bet because the left side's worse. But we'll know in the next 24 hours. And I recovered from the heart attack. My daughter driving me home threw the cigarettes. We threw the cigarettes into the Potomac.
Good.
I never smoked again.
Yeah.
But the adjunct story, the funny, what I meant by foxhole humor, is a couple months later, I was taking a stress test, and they made me get off the machine right away, and they said, "You're not doing well." And they took some exams, and the doctor came in and said, "You're going to need bypass surgery." And I couldn't believe that. He said, "We could do it here." I said, "No, I want to do it in New York because I grew up in New York and I want to die in New York." Yeah. Jewish pessimism. I want to die in New York. So I flew up to New York, and in November, I waited 2 months. I thought they would find a cure. This was September.
On the flight?
I waited somewhere. So I get to New York, and I go to the hospital in the morning, and my brother took me in. My late agent, Bob Wolf, was there. And I walk into New York Hospital. It was a terrible, November 1st, 1987, December 1st, terrible, rainy, ugly day. Yeah. The worst day to go to a hospital. Yeah. And to go for surgery, double worse. And I walk in, and standing there is Governor Mario Cuomo.
Okay.
With a baseball bat. He's got a gift for me, a baseball bat. And the head of the hospital. And the head of the hospital says to me, "Mr. King, you don't have to bother with the formalities. We'll take you right up." to the special wing, the cardiac wing. And I go up in a special elevator, and they put me in this room. It was unbelievable. Wall-to-wall carpeting.
Oh.
Beautiful. Beautiful view of the East River. And except for the hospital bed, you would think it was a suite at a hotel. And the president of the hospital says to me, Mr. King, I want you to know the Shah of Iran stayed in this room. And I said to him, I think he died.
Exactly.
How about putting me in a ward where everyone goes home?
How about a luckier room?
And then, this is the end of the story. Now I'm going to have my surgery. My daughter's there, my son, Andy, Bob Wolf, but I have not, my brother, Marty, I have not met my doctor, the surgeon, because the surgeon don't have to meet you till the surgery.
Right.
And this guy walks in, Dr. Wayne Isom, he did David Letterman, he did many, many famous people. He did a lot of surgeries and a lot of famous, very well-known doctor, but I didn't know him. And he comes in, he's got a 10-gallon hat. It's a Sunday morning. Boots from cowboy boots. And he goes, you're going to do right fine. You're going to do right fine. I looked at the films, you're going to do fine. And he comes over to me, and I, by the way, since discovered that all heart surgeons are either Jewish or from Texas. There is no Protestant heart surgeon in Minot, North Dakota, or South Dakota. There's nobody.
How does that work? I haven't met a Jew in Texas yet.
No, they're either from Texas or Jewish.
Okay.
Anyway, this is a true story.
Yeah.
This is my famous doctor. He comes over and he does all the things doctors do, which is take 2 fingers and tap your shit. I don't know why. I guess the first thing you learn in medical school. He's tapping, and I look down. He has no right thumb. Now, picture this. I'm a day before the surgery. It's raining. I'm totally depressed, and my surgeon has no right thumb. I later learned that it was a shearing accident. His mother was shearing grass, and she sheared off by mistake. Made him ambidextrous, made him a better surgeon. But I don't know this. So what do you say to your doctor? And I said, this is true. You know, Doc, it's funny, but all my life, I've had this strange habit. When I meet people, I count their fingers. And with you, I get to 9. And anyway, he told me, he explained it to me, did the surgery. But I had a dream that night that he came there first thing in the morning, and he cuts his other thumb while shaving.
That calls to mind the George Carlin story about the dentist with blood in his hair. It's the last thing you want to see.
You're not kidding.
Well, listen, let me ask you about this, because everybody's here because of the special recognition that they're doing for you here at the museum, which is way overdue, in my estimation. Way overdue.
I'm honored to be.
Much
I
deserved.
remember when this place, Alan Newhart, the great Alan Newhart, started this place. It was in Roslyn then.
Yeah.
But they built this magnificent building. I think it's one of the great museums in the country.
You actually had a connection with him and with USA Today.
Oh, he hired me at USA Today to write a column, which I did for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Before that, I had written for the Miami Herald and the Miami News. I liked writing, but my favorite thing was broadcasting, radio and television. And
Yeah, but you're writing. Jerry Seinfeld, as I understand it, credits
yeah,
you
he
with
said
inventing
I
Twitter
found-
because
well,
of
I
your
used-
writing?
I did this column called It's My 2 Cents, which was just throwing thoughts off at the top of my head. And now every Sunday night, I send out about 30 tweets. Just, it's my 2 cents. It's just anything I could think of.
And this is what year?
I started that in USA Today in 81, 82. And then I started now doing it on Twitter, and Seinfeld said, you know, I'll do things like I hate broccoli. That would be one line, you know. And, if you don't eat peanut butter and jelly, there's something wrong with you. You know what I mean? I like chocolate milk.
That is so perfect for today, for
Yeah.
the way people communicate and write today.
That's right. So it was a forerunner.
Yeah. So
Never thought I'd be a forerunner. I never thought I'd be 81 years old. So to be, you know, when you're acknowledged in a museum, I don't know what that's saying. You know, I got a lifetime achievement from the Emmys, the National Academy of Radio and Television. and it was in New York. It was a wonderful ceremony. Brian Williams, rather. Brian Williams.
Oh, Brian Williams, okay.
He just come back from taking anti-aircraft fire in Korea. It's a joke.
Did he ride in a chopper? Was he in a chopper over there? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And
that's cold. That is
no,
cold.
in fact, he said, "We are here to pay homage to Larry King, and at the end of the evening, I will explain to him what homage means." But that was a wonderful night. But when you get a Lifetime Achievement Award, you figure that's it, right?
No.
Well, who's lifetime, right?
Well, you're the one who's you're breaking the mold on that.
Because then I come back and I do the Aura show.
Well, for a lot of people, there was a lot of doubt that there'd be a life after CNN for you, and there has been plenty of life in you after CNN.
There is, and I love being on the internet. I'm not doing anything different than what I did 58 years ago, and I'm transmitted differently.
Yeah.
Right. Like we're still broadcasters. I'm a broadcaster.
Yeah.
So now, instead of just being on a radio wavelength or a telephone wire, I had satellites, and now it's the internet, which I don't know what is the internet. No, I really, it bugs me. Where is the internet?
No.
Where is it?
Well, Ted Stevens says it's tubes. It's a series of tubes. That's all I know.
Is there someone in that machine? A little guy named Irwin.
But if you think about it,
It would have to be Irwin.
But you really have been an innovator for. Okay, you've already said you're 81. You're coming up on nearly 60 years. As a media
make
figure.
it to 2017.
Yeah, that'll be
7
60
decades.
years. So think about this. You have been an innovator pretty much in every single decade. Okay, you started off in radio, and then you went to television, taking your act to television, which hadn't been done before. Then you took it to satellite and cable television at CNN, which
And
hadn't
national
been done before.
radio.
Still doing national radio and still doing national radio. And then this thing with the internet comes along. And it seems like you've been able to reinvent yourself or find a place for yourself in every single medium.
It's a good question.
It's amazing.
I don't know what it is. Malcolm Forbes said that I created a vacuum and filled it.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I say this a lot, but it's really, I pinch myself every day, Leon. I was born in Brooklyn. My father died when I was 9.5. We were on relief. Now it's called, what do they call it?
Welfare. Yeah.
It was relief then, and New York City bought my first pair of glasses. I never forgot that I was on relief. I don't know anybody who's happy that they're on relief. And the welfare people would come and check whether my mother was buying the right kind of meat to save money. So I grew up very poor. I always wanted to be in radio. So the truth is, I pinch myself every day. I can't believe what has happened to me.
I've heard you say
I'm
that-
sitting here with you.
No,
in
that's
a museum.
not-
No, in a museum.
Oh, this is something. Yeah.
But wait, but I can't believe sometimes. I swear to God, I look at myself, and I wonder who that is. I have a trophy room at home. I walk in there, and I can't. Who is this? I don't mean to boast. I just can't believe. My father, if he were alive, he wouldn't believe this. I mean, I just can't believe it.
That's
But
the definition of a charmed life.
Yes, and I always credit, though, the people who gave me the microphone.
Yeah.
The people who gave me this. Ted Turner, who gave me a camera. I didn't own the camera. So I always respected the business I'm in, and I never thought I owned it. I never thought I was above reproach. I was above the business.
Yeah.
I love this business. It's a great way to make a living.
Tell me about Ted Turner.
The best.
When you came on board, I want to say it was 85 when you came on board, a lot of us thought Ted had lost his mind. Well, the thing is, we said this is, an international television news network. Why is he bringing on this talk radio guy, this talk guy? Lo and behold, of course, everybody now follows that model. But we thought it was nutty for you to come on board, and then within a matter of months, you're the most recognized face, the number one figure there.
You know Ted.
I know Ted, so I want to know how you got to know Ted.
I started out by interviewing him. I was a big baseball fan, so we talk about the Atlanta Braves a lot. He came on my radio show. He did my local television show, Channel 7 in Washington. I did weekends here. I taped it during the week.
And they still remember you there.
And they played it on Saturday night and Sunday night, and it was very nice, and Ted guested on that show. And then he called me one day, and he said, listen, I got this lady, Sandy Freeman. She's doing a show every night at 9 o'clock, and her husband is her agent, and he's driving me nuts. You got to know Ted. He says, I can't stand this guy. He says, now her contract's up, and he's coming in Friday expecting a new and bigger contract. I would love to shove it up his. He says, so.
That's Ted.
He says, this was Tuesday night. Would you like to do a show on CNN? I said, Ted, CNN isn't even carried in Washington. I never see CNN. He says, Ted, I got my all-night radio show. I'm making $200,000 a year. That's not bad for radio. I'm doing a column. I go to Oriole games. I go to hockey games. I was doing in between periods doing cap broadcasts. So I'm going to have no life if I'm doing 9 to 10 and 12 to midnight to 5. He says, well, have your agent call me. Have Bob Wolf call me. And I says, okay. And Bob Wolf calls me the next day. He said, listen, it's not a bad deal. He'll give you 3 years. He'll give you 200 and then 2.25 and then 250. But he knows you're a little hesitant. At the end of the first year, you can get out. He can't drop you, but you can leave it.
Okay.
So Bob Wolf said to me, it's worth a year of your time. Give it a year of your time. So we call up Ted, and we say, okay, I'm starting. He says, oh, I love this. And he told me later, the husband comes in and says, well, Ted, how are we going to do? And Ted said to him, I don't know how you're going to do out there. And then I worked, but I knew the first night Mario Cuomo was the guest, I knew this show was going to work. I don't know why I knew it was going to work.
What makes you say that?
It was a feeling, Leon. It was just a feeling went through me. I said, you know, this can work. We were in Georgetown. We were in 2 buildings separated by an alley. They did the makeup in one building. Then you went across the alley to the other building. And then we moved to a bigger building and an even bigger building. And and I almost left Ted. And this was a great true story. Bob Wolf worked it out that in 1989, I had signed a new contract. I was making now I'm making $800,000 from CNN. I got bumped up from radio. I'm really starting for a poor little Jewish kid to have some money.
Doing pretty good.
I never lie about any of these things. But I had a window in the contract. Bob Wolf put a window in for 30 days in October of 99. I could talk to anybody I want, and if I got a new job, I could start in the spring. I'd have to give Ted 6 months' notice.
Okay.
But I could take a new job. And Bob Wolf was a great agent. He's got me going everywhere. I met with Eisner at Disney. I met with the people at Fox. I met with the people who did Oprah, King World. I met with the head of ABC, Rue Knowledge. It was unbelievable. So now it's 30 days. We're getting down to the end of the 30 days. What am I going to do? And I like CNN, but I'm hearing these things. So finally, we're down to 2 offers. Rue Knowledge has offered, I'm going to follow Ted Koppel right after he does his show.
After Nightline?
11:30 to 12. I would go on from 12 to 1 with Larry King Live.
All right.
And when Koppel vacations, I would host Nightline. And when I vacation, he would host our show. So it'd always be one of us.
Whoa.
And then we'd promote it, King and Koppel, Koppel and King.
Yeah.
But the King brothers offer me a deal like Oprah had. We'll give you a syndicated show. We'll give you, each one was going to be $1.5 million. ABC $1.5 million, King World $1.5 million. But King World is going to give me 9% of the show. 9%, which was Oprah's first deal.
Okay.
And they would, here's King World, Roger King, a wild guy. We'll have 2 people, a young guy and a young girl, reporters. They'll each have their own jet, pilot flying them around. You'll begin the show one night with one girl, end with the other, and you go wherever there's a news story.
Okay.
You'll go on the air, bang, news story. Oh my God. So it's filling, my head's all filled up with these fantastic offers. What am I going to do? ABC, King World. And Bob Wolf says, I got to go down and tell Ted, what are we going to do? So he asked both of them, listen, it's either one or the other. Will you give us a couple days, but I got to go down and tell Ted because my 30 days are up. So he flies down to Atlanta. I'm sitting, wow, $1.5 million. ABC, I'm dreaming of ABC. King World. I go out to LA, and I was dating Angie Dickinson. And she meets me at the airport. and it's raining. Like, here's a little Jewish kid from Brooklyn. Angie Dickinson is meeting him at the airport with an umbrella.
Policewoman.
And
Yeah.
she takes me out to her car,
Yeah, baby.
and she's driving. I'm going to stay at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And while we're driving, I'm telling her about these deals, and she just said, "Are you unhappy at CNN?" I said, "No." "Do you like Ted Turner?" "Yeah, I love him." "Why are you leaving?" I said, "Well, it's $700,000. She said, "You know, if you leave a place just for money,
Yeah.
if that's your only reason, the first day you're unhappy, you're going to hate everyone around you who encouraged you. You're going to hate Bob Wolf. You're going to hate Tammy Haddad. They were all my friends, everybody. Oh, you got to do this."
Yeah.
So I was thinking, oh, maybe you're right. Now, I go to sleep. 6 o'clock in the morning in L.A. on Monday morning, the phone rings. And it's Ted Turner, 9 o'clock in Atlanta. He's on the speakerphone. "Larry, it's Ted. I'm standing here with Bob Wolf." "Over what?" He says, "Bob tells me you're going to leave." And Bob is yelling, "This is unethical." And Ted says, "Screw ethics." Okay. "Bob tells me you're going to leave." He says, "I understand completely. You got these two nice offers. All I want to hear is 2 words. Just say goodbye, Ted."
Yeah.
Say goodbye, Ted. I can't say it. He says, "You can't say it. You can't say it."
Say it. Gotcha.
"You stay with me, and I'll give you that $1.5 million in 6 months. Stay with me." I stayed.
Boy.
And
And
Bob
as they
Wolf
say, the
said,
rest is history, huh?
You learn a lesson. Know how your client feels.
Yeah. You know what? That's 2 different nuggets that you've just dropped in here. That someone's giving you some good advice. Is that the best advice you've ever been given?
Know what you're thinking. Know what you feel. And I knew I loved CNN.
Yeah.
I knew I loved it. So why was I even? But it was my head I was getting heady, you know.
Yeah.
And Ted was just a great guy, the best guy I ever worked for, because he had no connection between his brain and his mouth.
And his mouth,
So
yeah.
whatever you asked
I knew where
him,
you were going. I knew where you were
whatever
going.
you asked him, you got an honest answer.
Yeah.
I mean, Ted. I'll take a great instance with Ted. He invites me out to his ranch in Montana.
Okay.
No Jew has ever been in Montana. I fly out to Montana to be in. He's got a ranch in New Mexico, Montana, Florida, Tallahassee. He's in Argentina. He's an amazing guy, biggest landowner in America.
That's right.
So I'm not used to farms and ranches. I'm out there, and he's got a beautiful thing in Jane Fonda. You know, it's wonderful. Them doing exercises. Mm-hmm. And he says he had just bought the ranch, a huge ranch. He said, "Let's go out for a ride." Okay, I think this was the year 2000, and he had a Land Rover.
Yeah.
We get in the car, me and him, and it's late at night. We're driving around. There's buffalo all around. Buffalo. They have blue eyes at night. Buffalo. They're really interesting. And I'm driving around this unbelievable. Ted's, looking around. He hasn't surveying his land. And then he goes like this. He stops, and he says 2 words no Jewish person ever wants to hear.
Oh.
We're lost. We're lost. So I said, we're lost. I said, he said, well, there's 2 things. There were no cell phones. There's 2 things we could do. We could sleep here all night, and someone will come from the ranch to find us.
What a search
used to
party.
the ranch. I could drive around aimless. I don't know what we could do. So I said, Ted, these buffalo, they're all around the Land Rover now looking in. Could they turn this Land Rover over? And he says, we'll only take 2 of them. So he saw that I was paralytic. And so he says, I know what I'll do. And he was a sailor, he won the America's Cup.
Uh-huh.
He followed the stars.
That's right.
Back to the main house. There's this company. We drove around, we got home. That was Ted. I have so many stories, Well, 58 years, you get a lot of stories.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, you're coming up on 60 in 2017. Is when you hit
May 1st.
You have anything big planned for that year? As if this is not big enough.
I tell you, Leon, the first plan would be to live. when you get to be 80, you'll be 80 someday.
Your lips to God's ears. Huh?
Okay. It's aging is a bitch. Now, I feel good. I got no complaints. I really got no complaints. But I had a heart attack, heart surgery, type 2 diabetes, prostate cancer, was cured with radiation. I take my medication. I take my HGH every day. I'm in good health.
Yeah.
But I fear the end, and I don't want it to end. So when you say 2017...
Why do you fear? I mean, you
Because
pretty much have done everything.
I don't think I'm going anywhere else after this. My wife is a total believer. She believes there's the other side, and she's going to the other side. But I want to be frozen. I was on Dr.
What, like Ted Williams? You want your head in the jar and all
Take
that?
the head off. That's a miss.
Yeah?
I was on Dr. Oz, and Dr. Oz showed me exactly what they do. When you die, they inject you with a fluid that keeps the blood circulating through. They take it and they freeze you with a certain compound. They put you in a tube.
Yeah.
They have it all labeled. It's in New Hampshire and in Phoenix. And if they find the cure for it, it's your whole body. They find it. It's $135,000. You put it in your will.
Yeah.
They know they come to the hospital right away. And if you died of cancer of Sutton Place, and they cure it, they revive you.
Yeah, but if they thaw you out, you're still an old guy. You're not.
But if they could.
Hey.
Son of a bitch. You know, that's a good point. But let me tell you. Let me say what I think. If, let's say it's the year 2090, all right? The year 2100.
All right.
Okay. Wait a minute, it is 2100.
That's right.
No, it's, all right.
Like
let's say
2300.
All right, 2300.
All right.
They cure me. They've also cured other things.
Yeah.
I would imagine people are living till 300 with all the medications they've discovered. So I'll be 85. I'll have another 200.
Would you really want to live to be 300?
You bet. My
Really?
wife said to me, "You won't know anybody." I said, "I'll meet new people." You know, my wife. Since I don't believe in an afterlife, I don't want to be buried. I don't want to be fried, and I'd like to have in other words, I would have, if I were being frozen. Look at it this way: one glimmer of hope as I pass away, that someday I might come back. You, on the other hand, Leon, have no glimmer of hope.
Hey, well, listen. So let's say for argument's sake, you're wrong, and there's no penalty for being wrong. All right, and you do find that you're on the other side. Is there anybody you'd want to be there with? Anybody you want to meet that you haven't met here? Somebody you want to talk to you haven't talked to here?
Oh, let's talk to Lincoln,
Yeah.
Hitler.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. What made him do that? But I don't
Hitler.
think
What would you ask Hitler? Like what kind
Why?
of tree
Why
he
is
would
it-
want to be? What would you ask Hitler?
You know, we looked up the records, Adolf. Your grandfather was Jewish.
Yeah.
No, I'd ask one. I'd ask anyone. I'd ask Saddam Hussein, why did you leave a very wealthy family in Saudi Arabia to go live in caves in Afghanistan? See, that puzzles me. I try to walk in other people's shoes. What makes people do what they do?
Yeah.
What motivates them? And that fascinates me. That's my whole career.
What's your bucket list for interviews then? I want to know who you.
I'd like to
who you would
interview with
fantasize about
Fidel
talking to.
Castro.
Fidel Castro?
Yeah.
You never did talk with him?
No, I went to Havana a couple of years ago. It's a beautiful city, Havana. And I went there. I'm glad we're opening up to Havana because a lot of people ought to go there. I went and we met with officials of the government trying to set it up. Ted Turner was trying to help me too because he knows Fidel. Because Fidel, I think, led his country more than any other person ever. 60 years, I think he led the country.
60 years.
That's pretty long. So he'd be fascinating to me. I'd like to interview Mrs. Merkel of Germany. I've interviewed lots of heads of state, but she's probably the most powerful woman.
She hasn't made time for you yet? You've talked to a lot of world leaders. She hasn't made time for you yet?
We got to start, Larry King now is now being seen in other countries. We're amping that up. We're only in our third year. So I'd start making those contacts. I'd like to do that again. I love sitting down I love asking questions of anybody. I'm so curious, Leon. you don't want to sit next to me on an airplane. I mean, I'm not kidding. I flew in from L.A. to here 2 days ago, and next to me was a guy from Grumman Aircraft. Grumman Aircraft. They build fighter planes.
Yeah.
I peppered this guy with what do you make of this plane we're on? What do you think of this commercial aircraft? What does it take to build a plane? How do you know the plane's going to work? What do you do? How much does it cost? People, who was Grumman? What? And I could tell the guy, he got up to go to the bathroom, and I could tell, I could see on his face, if I could only stay in there 2 hours.
It's like the scene in Airplane. The guy's looking for a gas can in a match, yeah?
But I'll tell you the truth, Leon, I never forget where I came from. And that's important, I think. I never forgot. My closest friends are guys from New York.
I hear about that. You still meet with your buddies in the deli out in L.A.?
Well, I used to be the deli. Now I have Brooklyn Water Bagel. It's a national company. They're opening all over. They're in Florida and Boston. And so in return, I became their national spokesperson, and they gave me like 20% of the Beverly Hills store. So I go there every morning, and they have great bagels made with. They make their own water to 8 New York City.
You want to give a plug since you're here? And you have a captive audience.
What, are they going to go to Beverly Hills?
Well, if they have a chance of having lunch with you.
Yeah, I have breakfast there.
Breakfast then, all right.
With friends and friends I grew up with and new friends I've made in L.A. But old friends are the best. Yeah. My friends Herbie and Hoo-Ha.
Hoo-Ha. Is there a story behind that name?
Oh, there's a lot of stories. Well, name was Bernie. But let me tell a story. Can I tell a story of the past?
Well, you know what? I think we've got time. Sure, why not?
What we got a half hour, and then we taking questions.
We'll be taking some questions, as a matter of fact, folks. I think we have a couple of microphones set up on either aisle
This
here.
is a story
so
I've told. I tell this when I make speeches. It's a true story. The New Yorker once, a long time ago, made reference to it. What I'm about to tell you is completely true, Leon.
Okay.
And you would never bet that anyone in this story, we were at the time 14 years old, that anyone in this story would be successful. Anyone of these 3 young guys would be successful. The 3 young guys were me, Herbie Cohen, who went on to write You Can Negotiate Anything, who Playboy magazine called the world's best negotiator, and Brazzi Abati, who became a brain surgeon in Buffalo, New York, and wound up owning his own hospital. There's me, Larry Zeiger, who would become Larry King, Herbie Cohen, and Brazzi Abati. We're in 9B4, and now I think high school now is 9, 10, 11, 12, right? I think. But then junior high school in New York was 7th, 8th, and 9th grades. Then you went to high school for 10th, 11th, 12th. So we were in 9th grade, it's like October, we're going to graduate in June, and then go on to high school the following September. We were in 9B4. 9B1 were A students. 9B2 were B students. 9B3 C students. 9B4 were actually labeled, we're not sure. 9B5 were Neanderthals. One guy in 9B5 loved me because I removed a thorn from his paw. Anyway, we're in class. It's hard to believe this really happened. We're in class, and Gil Mappo did not come to school. His name was Gil Mermelstein, but he had hair like a mop, and so his name was Gil Mappo. So he didn't come to school. So Herbie and Brazzi and I, 3 guys who would later do pretty well in life, decided to go over to Mappo's house to see why he didn't come to school. We get to his house, all the shades are drawn. There's a young man about 19 years old sitting on the front stoop looking forlorn. And so we asked him, what's the matter? He said, well, Mappo's got tuberculosis. And he's an only child. His father just retired. So the parents and Mappo have moved to Tucson, Arizona. And he's going to be there for a year. It takes at least that to cure tuberculosis. And I'm his only living relative. I'm his cousin. I live in Jersey City. I'm staying overnight to go to school tomorrow to tell the school that Mappo will not be back. Because this is September. This is October. He won't be back. And they're going to graduate. And they can't leave him back. So he's got to go on to high school. You can't leave him back because of illness. So Herbie says, hey, go home, we'll tell the school. Okay. So the guy says, thanks. He leaves. Now, we're walking down the street, me, Herbie, and Brazzi. We're on Bay Parkway and Bath Avenue. And Herbie says, I have a fantastic idea to make money. We'll tell him Mappo died.
What?
And we'll raise money. You know, for flowers and candy and stuff. So I said, Herbie, what happens? He says, first of all, it's October. He's gone a year. Next year, we're in a high school 10 miles away. It'll be forgotten. The whole thing will blow over. It'll be forgotten. Okay, we go into school, swear to God. We go up to the teacher. We say, we went to Mappo's house. He's dead. Teacher calls down to the homeroom. The homeroom calls Mappo's phone. The operator says, phone disconnected. They register on his card, and we raised $239 from a school. And we bought candy, Dodger tickets. I mean, we're living on. It was fantastic. Now, about a month later, the principal asked to see us in his office. All right, we figure we're dead. I'm walking down the hall, and I'm saying to myself, my poor mother, my father dead. How am I going to handle this? Brazio Body, I'll never be a doctor. I'll never be a doctor. Herbie, no problem. Herbie the negotiator, I'll handle it. I'll tell him we had the wrong information. We're so sorry. We'll raise the money. We'll do something. We go into his office. Instead of being angry, he says, my 3 young friends, sit down. It was a big school. He didn't know us from Adam. What's going on? Sit down, my 3 young friends. Oh, want some tea? What the hell is it? And then he tells us, the New York Times is going to do a tribute to junior high schools. Junior high schools get no credit because high schools play intramural sports, but junior high schools get no attention. So they want each junior high school to do some event, and they'll pick out the best ones, and they'll do a story on it. So we had a faculty meeting, and the teachers told us how the 3 of you, the 3 of you raised money for the late Gil Mermelstein. We searched our records, and we find that Gil Mermelstein is the only student in the history of this school to die. Most 14-year-olds make that leap. So he says, this is the truth. He says, well, we're going to have, in June, before graduation, 2 days before graduation, we're going to have the Gil Mermelstein Memorial Assembly. And what we're going to have is, we're going to present an award to the best student in the school. We'll invite his parents. The whole school will come to the auditorium. I'll speak, and we'd like the 3 of you, in honor of your late friend, to sit on the stage. And we're going to build in the lobby a huge trophy, and each year we'll add the name of the winner of the Gil Mermelstein Memorial Award. We should have told him. No, I'll give you that.
You think?
Should have told him. We walk out, as a truth, I'll never forget this. We're walking down back to our class, and I was saying, how are we going to do this? And Herbie said, guys, look at it this way. Someday in the future, that award will kick in. Mappo will die. Now, it's hard to believe, you know, but this is the truth. It's now the day of the Gil Mermelstein Memorial Assembly. We dress up in our new suits. The winner of the Memorial Award is sitting there on the stage. His parents are in the front row. The principal's making a speech.
Oh, goodness.
And that day, that goddamn day, Mappo came back to school.
It's a miracle.
As Herbie likes to say, in tubercular history, modern medicine, they cure Mappo. So there's 2 ways Mappo can go into the auditorium. He can go in through the side doors, little curtains or 2 big brass doors. First, Mappo goes into school and no one's in class. He goes to the office and he says, what's going on? They say, special assembly. Mappo goes down. Instead of choosing the little glass curtains, he chooses the brass doors that lead onto 84th Street. He opens up these brass doors and he sees a banner, Gil Mermelstein Memorial Assembly. Mappo is not the brightest guy in the world, but he knows what memorial means. So the principal's speaking, the three back rows of the audience look around these kids, and they know it right away. They spot them, New York City kids. Herbie, Brazzy, and Larry glommed us out at $230. And this is a farce, right? And they knew it because they were New York City kids. If you're a New York City kid, I don't care. I don't want to be gauche about this or not, but you're a step ahead. I'll put it this way. You're a D student in New York, you're mayor of Des Moines. You're phoning it. So they spotted right away.
That's cold.
The kid, they start laughing. Hey, the Mappo's alive. Herbie stands up on stage and yells, "Go home, Mappo, you're dead." Mappo flees. The winner of the award, do I get the award? Do I get The principal looks at the three of us. The veins are coming out of his head. He says, "My office now." And we're now we're really crying. Brazzy's crying, I'm crying, Herbie, I'll handle it. We go into his office, and the principal says, "The three of you, this is the worst day in my history in the New York City school system. I'm totally embarrassed. You have totally, this is unbelievable. So you're suspended, of course. Go down to your lockers, get your stuff, go home. You won't go to high school. I'm going to recommend Rikers Island. I think you should chop rocks till you're 18. Get out of here, and I would never want to see you again, the three of you out." And Herbie says, "You're making a big mistake." And the principal says, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, if you suspend a kid in New York, there's going to be a hearing for the school board because every kid is entitled to a hearing. And we're going to be suspended. I mean, obviously. But one of the school board members is going to say to you, 'Mr. Principal, 3 dumb kids come into a class, tell you a kid died. You make one phone call, mark deceased, and hold the whole assembly in his honor. We'll be suspended. You'll never be principal again.'"
So much for 9B4.
Herbie says, "Why don't we just forget the whole thing?" And we graduated, and here's the kicker. We graduate on graduation day. Instead of graduating alphabetically, we graduate by size. I don't know why they did it. What? The tallest guy. And so Mappo is right in front of Herbie. And the principal's handing out the diplomas. And he goes, "Gil Mermelstein." Herbie pushed it aside and said, "I'll take it. He's deceased." So those kind of guys, the Herbies, the Brazzys, they're still all part of my life.
Well, let me ask you.
The friends I grew up with are still around.
I have to ask you because I'm trying to put this image of you guys in my head, and then it looks like a movie. It's like a Ferris Bueller kind of thing here.
Yeah, we ought to make a movie.
All right, so you tell me who plays each of the characters. Who plays Herbie? Who plays Mappo? Who plays you?
Who would play me? Warren Beatty. Hey, I could dream.
What? Not George Clooney?
No, Herbie was handsome in his younger days. Herbie had green eyes. George Clooney played Herbie, and Mappo would be Dustin Hoffman.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd be like a tale out of the past, because we have so many stories of kids growing up and things that have happened to me. I'm a collection of stories, so when I go out and speak, and I do a lot of that, I just do an hour of stories. I tell a couple of jokes. I know some good jokes. I like telling good jokes.
Okay, you got one now?
Yeah. There's a train that goes every night from New York to Chicago. It leaves New York at 11 o'clock, gets to Chicago at 9 in the morning. It's an all-sleeper train, all Pullman. A guy comes in, checks into the train, and the door opens and a woman goes in. A single woman, a single man in the same compartment. The Amtrak would normally not sell that, but the woman insisted she had to go and she didn't mind. So the man gets into the upper bunk, the woman gets into the lower bunk, and the train begins its trek to Chicago. After a little while, the man leans over, he says, "Ma'am, I'm a little chilled. Could I borrow a blanket?" And she looks up and says, we've only just met. We're going to be on this train for 9 hours. We'll never see each other again. Why not? Just for tonight. Why don't we play man and wife? You and me, man and wife. Guy says, sure. She says, good, get your own damn blanket. Yeah, it's a good joke.
All right, I'll give you that one. I was wondering where that was going to go. All right.
The key to all jokes, is surprise. You know, if you can do that, I'll tell you a little dirty joke.
Okay.
But it's also, this is a good joke. You have to imagine for yourself. Anyway, we all remember the O.J. Simpson trial.
Yeah.
And the famous jury consultant, Joel Demetrius, who helped pick that jury.
Yeah.
This guy is arrested for making love to a goat.
Okay.
Making love to a goat. And he calls his lawyer in, and the lawyer says, I'm desperate. He says, I don't know what to do. You know. So the lawyer says, I'm going to get that jury consultant who handled the O.J. trial and let her help us pick a jury. So the trial begins. Prosecution puts up the first witness. The man goes up, sits down. He says, do you know the defendant? He says, yes. What can you tell us? I saw that man. I saw him with the goat. I saw him make love to the goat. I saw the goat lick him. And one juror turns to the other and says, you know, a good goat will do that. See, that's a good joke because it has the truism, the jury consultant, the element of surprise. You know what I mean?
Speaking of surprises, I'm going to let you guys, I can talk to you all night, but I know some folks that may have some questions for you. Make your way down to the microphones. We'll get to you. But
we got time, don't we?
Well, they told me to break and let other people ask you some questions.
We do another 10 minutes and people ask,
That's
right?
fine. Okay, good.
All right, how long do we do? I think
you told me 50. But great. Well, tell you what. Then let me ask you this then. Speaking of surprise, who has surprised you the most in an interview? Anybody?
G. Gordon Liddy.
G. Gordon Liddy?
I was prepared to hate him. He was the Watergate burglar. Mm-hmm. And he was a little nuts. He wrote a good book called Win. It's a pretty good book. But G. Gordon Liddy was kind of crazy. And so I expected, even though I never had an agenda when I interview people, I expected not to like him.
Yeah.
I just expected I would not like this guy breaking into the Watergate. And he came in, and in the course of the interview, I said to him, would you have killed Jack Anderson, the writer? He said, of course. If my president asked me to kill him, I'd have killed him. I said, well, Gordon, supposing I thought you were bad for this country, and I wanted to kill you. And he said, fair game. And so I said, this guy's so twisted. I like him. He's so honest.
Yeah, he's twisted but principled.
Principled, that's right. A man of principle.
Has there been anyone that you've interviewed that you did hate afterwards? Somebody that really disappointed you as a person?
My first interview was with George Wallace. I didn't like him at all, the governor of Alabama, and then he changed. And I interviewed him later in life after he was shot, and he had completely changed. And he had a black chief of staff. The whole basketball team was black. The valedictorian, the college was black, and he
180
changed.
degrees. Yeah.
He 180 degrees. But when I didn't like him at all. The head of Iran, Ahmadinejad, I had a tough time with him. Because in the course of the interview, he said, why did they give Israel, the state of Israel, in that place when that wasn't where the crime was? He said, if there was a Holocaust, the crime was in Poland and Germany. Why didn't they cut a piece of that?
I've actually heard that argument before.
So I said, did you say if there was a Holocaust? And then he tried to dismiss it, and I wouldn't get off it. Did you say it?
Yeah.
And I got all these Iranian guys standing around, and I wouldn't get off it, and that got testy.
Good for you.
But normally, I don't like hostile, that kind of thing. I like to draw people out. So the audience they can see the guy and judge for themselves, but they don't learn anything. So I never got at what led him to be that kind of person.
Let me ask you this. This is partially selfish for me, because one of the things I think everybody gets when they watch you work is that you're able to just get people to open up to you. There's something about the way that you connect with people.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know either. I like it. I don't know what it is, but
I don't know if I could teach it.
that's what I was going to ask you. Is it something that you could teach? Is that something that could be learned, or is that something that's just completely innate?
I never went to college. I think it's innate. I think what I've done is taken my lifelong curiosity and made a living with it. In other words, I like doing comedy. I did a comedy tour last year.
That's right, you did.
If I didn't break into broadcasting, I would have been a stand-up comic. I like making people laugh. But I was so curious, and I don't know where I got it, but I remember as kids, people would talk to me. You know, I would ask, what happened to you today? I don't know where it came from. Ohio State University asked me once if I'd like to come there for a semester and teach interviewing to the English class. And I said, I'd like to, but he said, we'll draw up a syllabus. I didn't know what a syllabus was. But I wouldn't know what to teach. I could tell you to be relaxed, to ask short questions. Good questions always begin with the word why, which you can't answer in one word. Listening is as important as what you ask. And good eye contact. In other words, show the person that you care. A good example of it is Sinatra, when I got finally Jackie Gleason got him for me. And this PR guy said, you know, he won't talk about his son's kidnapping. So don't ask about that. He will not talk about it. So I'm just saving you some time. Don't ask about it. So I put that away. He was so hard to get. We had Frank Sinatra. So in the course of the interview, in the middle of it now, I got him so relaxed. I said, the press, have you been bum-rapped, or is it overdone? And he said, well, it might be a little overdone, but take the kidnapping. He brought up the kidnapping.
Yeah, he brought it up, yeah.
Now, I didn't plan that, but I had him so comfortable.
Yeah, but you know what?
But I don't know what I do. I don't know
but you get knocked for that. You've been knocked in the past for people because
soft. Yeah.
You see, you ask softball questions.
I don't know why that's soft. You know, I don't understand it. If I'm trying to learn, if I'm entertaining and informative, and I've been doing it for 58 years, I must do something right. You know, so I take that. Hey, if you don't like it, you don't have to like it. If you think it's soft, or you think it's soft, it's fine. I
just want to know what
I made a living.
Did that bother you when
it
people
did at
say
first,
that?
and then I got to hear it. You know.
Well, then you cashed the check and it didn't matter?
Yeah, no. I always know that when I go on the air, I'm doing the best job I can. I'm trying to do the best. If it doesn't appeal to you, if you prefer something different, if you like people screaming at each other, then that's your forte. I don't knock it. It's just not my style.
Yeah. Well, your way of doing it has really made for some memorable and historic moments in the seat across the table from you. Everybody's got to remember your night with Ross Perot when he announced that he was going to run, which struck me thinking about that the other day. That probably couldn't happen today. If the media landscape was as crowded then as it is now, we had a special thing going on back then. There was nobody else on cable. There was just you had the whole country to yourself. You were sort of cable's version of Walter Cronkite, if you will, because at that time, at that hour, anybody watching cable was watching what was going on.
I got the Walter Cronkite Award, was one of the proudest. He presented it to me,
and that's very fitting. It could. Do you think that kind of thing could happen
No,
again?
one person could be. I was never as dominant as they were. Winchell years ago, no one was as dominant as Winchell. No. Today, there's too many. There's 500 channels. There's too many people out there. There's the internet, and there's the Twitter, and everybody's a journalist. And
so you had to come along at the right time for everything to fall into place.
Timing is important. Luck is important.
Right.
For example, what if Sandy Freeman, husband, and got along with Ted Turner?
He'd been a good guy.
Left turn, right turn. How much of life is luck?
Yeah.
How much of life? Paul Newman said, anybody who's successful and doesn't use the word luck in discussing their life is a liar.
Yeah. You know what? With that in mind, where do you think it's going?
If you can predict it, I don't know. I was in Korea 2 years ago, emceeing a conference on communications, and they were telling me at Samsung, they got a television set that you're going to carry in your pocket. You can take it out, and it'll fold out. It'll fold out into a set, and you'll see shows in your hand walking down the street.
As you're walking through traffic, yeah.
So how are you gonna? Where's it all going? What's it gonna be when you can? And I'm in the technical age. Obviously, I'm in the internet. I'm in the business.
Yeah.
But I miss the rotary phone.
Yeah.
Remember that? I like calling the operators. For make a long
You're still
distance.
old school.
Make a long.
You still miss radio?
I miss radio. I'll tell you another thing.
Oh.
Is my phone. It's a phone.
All right. I'm just glad it's not a jitterbug. Way to go. All right.
No, what I mean is, a lot of old things, typewriters were great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those kind of phones. For example, I don't text.
You don't?
I tell you why.
You tweet though, right?
I tweet. I dictate them.
Okay.
I dictate them. They go out right away. I don't. I can receive a text, but you can't send a text on this phone because it's 3 letters.
What? You
on
don't
it.
want to pay for the minutes?
No. I'm not. I'm not cheap. It's not the minutes. I notice people with their i6s. My kids. I got one kid 16. Other's going to be 15. The texting, talking to
24/7.
Well, that's not conversation to me. That's not.
not.
And I was at Aura one day. I was sitting, and there was a guy there, and he was texting. Mm-hmm. I said, "Who are you texting?" He said, "Jim." I said, "Jim's right over there."
Yeah.
Why don't you talk to him?
Yeah.
They don't see. I hate that.
Me too.
That's a loss, man.
That's why I'm kind of scared of what happens when you're friends with that TV that comes out. If that
So
succeeds.
where's it all going? What's it going to be? What's the future of networks? Cable TV is down now, right?
Yeah.
Networks are down.
Well, they're evolving over to online and the mobile devices. The whole thing now is being somehow on you, either on your wrist or in your pocket. Somehow.
Yeah, this watch.
Yeah.
Now, how's it? Why, if they have the iPhone, would you get the watch?
You're asking the wrong guy.
I knew Steve Jobs. I had Steve Jobs on when he was just starting Apple on my old radio show. And I was laughing at him. How smart I was.
Hey, so that means when you've interviewed people like that, you haven't thought, I need to go ahead and call my guy at Merrill Lynch. You've never thought about...
I should have done that, but I thought Steve was a little crazy. He was a marketer. You know, all these things, all these inventions. Do you know, this is a true story, in the Lincoln administration, there was a proposal to close the patent office on the grounds that everything that has been invented has been invented.
Everything's...
Could you explain airplanes to Thomas Jefferson?
Yeah. As brilliant as he is, he probably could never conceive.
How would you comprehend that? How do you explain television? Here's a box.
But you know what? Then again, Leonardo da Vinci, he might have gotten it. Looking at some of the things that he drew and some of the things that he imagined, someone as visionary as he might have gotten it.
But what did they call him in his time? Nutso.
Yeah, they call him nuts. I call him nuts.
As Mel Brooks, my favorite album of all time is Mel Brooks' 2,000-Year-Old Man.
2,000-Year-Old Man, yeah, with Carl Reiner.
They asked him, "Did you know Columbus?" And he says, "Oh, crazy, Chris?" Oh.
Yeah.
Well, he was a great man. He was the best dancer in Genoa. He did the bolero. He did the cha-cha. He was but what didn't they give him money to buy ships? He got money to take an apartment in Paris to fool around with the Queen. He bought ships. It's crazy. You know, I said, "Do you remember the day he said the world was round?" He said, "I'll never forget it." We're sitting around, Columbus comes in, says the world is round. He said, "I spit out my tuna fish." I think we're over. We did an hour already.
Wait, before we go on, before we let these guys ask their questions, who was the funniest person you ever interviewed?
Oh, there's so many. George Burns to Mel Brooks to Don Rickles to... God, I've interviewed all the great comics. I love comics.
Favorite? No one night with you and that microphone between you that just knocked your socks off?
Rickles
always
puts me away. He still puts me away. And he just is so funny, and his Sinatra stories are just unbelievable. And I love his attack humor. And when my daughter was born, her name is Kaya. It's the old Jewish Kai, but we call her Kaya. And he called me up and said, "What's her name?" I said, "Kaya." He says, "Is that a kid or a canoe?" You know, I love Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks eternally makes me laugh. There's no one fun. Carl Reiner is hysterical.
Now, the two, I would love to be with the two of them.
Carl Reiner said to me the other day, "The only problem I have is short-term memory loss. The only problem I have is it's getting cold up here."
Yeah, a little bit. Well, let's warm things up a little bit. We'll let people bring their questions down to the microphone. Anybody out there
in the building?
Anybody over here? Good. There's a mic over here.
Fire away. Turn on his mic.
Turn on the
Hey,
mic.
this is the museum.
Are we on?
There we go.
Yeah, we go. Good. In the vein of what we were discussing about, your interviewing style, you had Linda Tripp on, I think, a few times.
Yeah.
And she gave a narrative, and largely unchallenged by you, that suggested that she was more or less an innocent bystander in leading Monica Lewinsky to slaughter by the agents of the special counsel.
I don't think I let her off at all. I think with Linda Tripp, if you came away thinking that she was lying, right?
Well, she gave a plausible explanation. I think it's recent evidence that suggests that she was much more involved than she indicated she was.
Well, she wasn't. She was involved. She told her to save the dress, right?
Right.
All that story came out talking to her. Linda Tripp was a piece of work. Where is she?
Last I heard, she has a shop in Middleburg, Virginia.
Really? There was.
Okay.
I haven't had that brought up in a long time.
All right.
What?
Well, good on her. All right.
Okay, I'm sorry if I didn't please you.
Hey, how you doing, Mr.
Hi.
King?
Hey, how you doing?
Gregory Price. How you, Leon? How you doing?
What's up, man?
Thank you,
Good to see you.
How you doing?
Newhart. The years I spent in the USA Today building working as a hairdresser and makeup artist, and then a decade at CNN, there was a lot of conversations that took place in the green room. Was there a conversation that came in the green room that never made it to the air that you really wanted to make it go to air?
Ooh.
Oh, I think I got him.
Well, if I tell it now, there were a lot of things said off the record. The best thing that was said on the record that I brought on the air was Bob Dole. Bob Dole's being made up in the green room. It's another political interview. And he says, I had prostate cancer. I said, no. He said, and he's starting a group to fight prostate cancer, to learn all about it. And they combing his hair and putting makeup on. He says, I'm taking this new product called Viagra. And it really works. And I said, what's Viagra? And he says, it gives me an erection. So you and Elizabeth, he says, yeah. So I'm on the air with him, and I said, Bob,
What's up?
I know you had prostate cancer. What's up? And he told about Viagra on the air, and Elizabeth Dole was, she was either she was a cabinet post or a head of the Red Cross, one of the other jobs. And she's doing a press conference, and they're asking her how she feels about Viagra. That happened from the green room.
Thank you, sir. And off the record, we'll hear it later, okay?
All right, man. I'll see you tomorrow. Over here.
Hi, it's a pleasure and an honor to see you here.
Thank you.
I'm kind of curious to know whether there was a famous person, that did not want to be on your show because they were afraid of talking about things that they did not want to, but you could draw them in.
Well, yeah.
That sounds like a lot of you
I
guys.
never had a condition placed when I've done an interview. I never had anyone say. Now, if someone wants to say something, if it's not in the news, if someone says, I don't want to talk about my divorce,
Yeah.
and it's not in the news, If it's the front page of the news, but if it's not, I'm not involved in getting into personal business. But to draw people out, I tell you one true story. There's an organization called ACES. ACES are fighter pilots who shoot down more than 5 enemy planes in war. You're called an ACE. It's a fraternal organization. And we found out in Miami that we had an ace who had shot down 7 German fighter pilots in World War II, living in Miami. And they were having a convention of worldwide aces. It started as an American organization, and then there were aces from all over the world, Vietnam, all over. They exchanged stories, they get together. They found sometimes they were in the same fights, you know. So we had an American ace. He was an analyst at some stockbroker. And we're going to book him on. Wow, an ace, he shot down 7 German planes. And the Miami Herald's following him around. He's coming to do my radio show. It's the last hours on local radio, now WIOD, from 9 to 12, and he's the guest from 11 to 12. There's no other guest after him. Yeah. He comes into the studio, and he shakes my hand, and there's sweat all over his hand. And his mouth, and he sits down. I said, we have here an ace shot down 7 German planes in World War II. It's an honor to have him here. Tell me, Captain, what made you take up flying? I liked it. And then he went, anyway, every answer was one word. I liked it, I did this. It was okay. Where did you train? Texas. So I look up at the clock. It's 5 after 11.
Oh, God, I've been there.
I got to. Every interviewer's had it. So now I got to go to some sort of skill. And I said to him, "Are you nervous?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I don't know who's listening." I said, "That bothers you?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "What if I told you that we have a plane in the back of this radio station, and there's enemy aircraft up above, 3 of them. Would you go up?" "Oh, yeah." You wouldn't have fear? So I changed the whole conversation to a discussion of fear. What people are afraid of. And I turned this guy into a monster.
Wow.
He wound up, we dove through the clouds. I could see the whites in their eyes. When it became 12 o'clock, they had to carry him out of the... I don't want to go. I don't want to go.
I love that.
One of my proudest achievements.
I love that. All right, real quick, last 2 over here. We have no more time. We can just get one more in? All right,
yes,
one more.
Good evening. Leon, great job. And Larry, pleasure hearing from you.
Thank you.
Now, I'm from Jamaica. I just want to know if it's a 3-part question. Have you interviewed Bob in the past, before he died?
Interviewed who?
Bob Marley. And also, on the way to the hospital, while you were smoking, I want to know what you were smoking and if you inhaled. And the last question.
What?
Did you inhale?
And what you were
I
smoking.
inhaled, I was a smoker.
Going to the hospital. And the last question, what do you think about the legalization of marijuana?
My favorite. Okay. I think marijuana should be legal. It's widely used for health. It's the only treatment of that eye problem. What's it? Not
Glaucoma.
Glaucoma is the only known treatment to stop the pain.
Yeah.
I don't understand why it's probably been put down by the tobacco industry. I see no problem with it. It's sweeping the country. We don't have it in L.A. They have it here yet?
Well, they do, but they don't know how to do it. It's legal in the district.
Leon?
I'm only reporting what I see. Now, here it's so weird. They all know the deal here. It's legal, but you can't buy it. You can grow it, but you can't buy something to smoke it with. It's really they're still trying to figure it out. Sounds like Washington. Well, we are so happy to have you in Washington tonight, Larry King. This is a very much deserved recognition for you. I am so proud. I'm so happy. I'm so happy for you. Happy for you, and proud to call you a friend.
Me too, Leon. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, for turning out. This is very special to me. I spent 20 years of my life here. I love living in McLean, Virginia. I love being part of Washington, hanging around the Duke Zeberts and old friends, coming back and meeting new friends, being in this wonderful building, which I hope to be an active part of. I think we're gonna have a little section here devoted.
What's going to be in it? You're going to have some of your
Some of my old
iconic
stuff
items like
from
the
set
microphone?
and the microphone and other stuff from the career.
I was going to ask you about that. Do you have one of these in every room? Do you have one in your bedroom too? No, wait a minute. Wait a second.
I tell you about this.
I asked him. I didn't ask his wife. I asked him. Okay.
This mic, there's no mics made in America anymore. There's no mics made in America.
Is that right?
It's an RCA microphone. This was the microphone widely in use in 1957 when I started in radio.
Yeah.
I was a disc jockey, and this hung down. And it was called a directional mic. You could do a panel of 4 people, put this in the middle, and all 4 would be heard well. It's a great microphone. Letterman has one. You could find some somewhere. We've had it. We had it at CNN. I use it at Aura.
Well, now we'll find yours here at the museum.
We're going to get one of these.
Gonna
Will
give
come
one.
to the museum. We'll have suspenders and ties, and hopefully something from various sets I've used. I'm proud to be part of this. It's great to be part of a museum and a museum like this. So I thank you all for coming. Had a wonderful
Mr.
time.
Harris. Thank you, Mr. Harris. And Mr. King, and I think you will all join me in feeling this way, but wouldn't you love to sit next to him on an airplane?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate Mr. King so much. He, on Twitter a few days ago, he said that he was so looking forward to coming here. And as it turns out, many of you said the same thing to us this week, that you looked so forward to seeing him. And in fact, I told Mr. King earlier that over 150 new members joined us after we advertised this show. So we're delighted and we appreciate what he's done for us. Now I know what a fundraiser he is, and after the Mappo story, I think if broadcasting doesn't work out, we'll put him to work. Tonight is about appreciating you. So I do, quickly, before we start the reception, want you to know how appreciated and respected you are. In addition to our board of trustees who are with us here tonight, this is a very special audience. It's our members, our Press Pass members, our Friends of the First Amendment, and our corporate engagement members. In this room are people who share our values, are people who inspire us with energy, ideas, feedback, motivation, are people who are amplifying our message and helping promote us to friends and family, and are people who are providing support to ensure we have the resources to continue this work. We rely on philanthropic gifts and membership for nearly 40% of our operating revenue, so you should know what a difference you make in making programs like this possible. Thank you. Tonight is for you. And that's why this evening we hope you enjoy the reception. There are 2 very talented people I want to just point out quickly. My colleague Jason Mollahan, who just joined us last week to manage our membership program. And in membership engagement, Mandy Middleton, who many of you know works very hard on your behalf. Please get to know them tonight. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy and thank you.